Here's something that will genuinely change the way you think about your garden. Scientists have discovered that somewhere between 70 and 80% of your immune system lives inside your gut. And right now, trillions of microscopic organisms are living there. And what you feed them today is quietly shaping your energy, your mood, your immunity, and even how clearly you think. But here's the part nobody talks about. The single most powerful thing you can do for those bacteria isn't buying supplements, it's growing the right plants. Most of us have felt it at some point. That sluggish, foggy, tired feeling that no amount of sleep seems to fix. Bloating after meals. Low energy. That sense that something is just off. Scientists now believe a poorly fed microbiome is one of the biggest culprits. The good news, certain plants contain natural compounds that feed the right bacteria with remarkable precision, and several of them are absurdly easy to grow at home. Every plant in this list was chosen for one reason. The science actually backs it up. No trends, no guesswork. We're counting down from 10 to 1, and the plant at number 1. It has the highest natural prebiotic concentration of almost any food on Earth. Researchers keep coming back to it. Gardeners barely know it exists. Let's get into it. Number 10. Dandelion. The plant most people are trying to kill in their garden might be the one most worth keeping. Dandelion roots are packed with inulin, a prebiotic fibre that passes straight through your digestive system, undigested, and lands in your large intestine, where your beneficial bacteria use it as fuel. Studies show it selectively stimulates the growth of Bifidobacteria and Lactobacilli, two of the most well-researched and beneficial bacterial groups in the human gut. It also appears to support the gut barrier itself, helping keep the lining strong and intact. And growing it? You practically can't stop it. It thrives in full sun or partial shade in virtually any soil with zero care. If you want to grow it intentionally, it's ready to harvest within weeks. Gardening tip: grow dandelion in a container if you want to control the spread. The young leaves are also excellent in salads, bitter, mineral-rich, and brilliant for digestion. Dandelion is a quiet overachiever. But the next plant brings a completely different kind of fibre to your gut, and it's been feeding beneficial bacteria in a unique way. Number 9. Lentils. Lentils are one of the most fibre-dense foods you can eat. Somewhere between 20 and 25% of their weight is fibre, among the highest of any plant. And it's not just one type of fibre. Lentils contain resistant starch, galacto-oligosaccharides, and soluble fibre all at once, essentially a multi-channel food supply for your gut bacteria. Research from animal models shows that lentil consumption can increase the production of acetate, propionate, and butyrate, the three main short-chain fatty acids that gut bacteria produce when they ferment fibre. These compounds are what gut researchers get genuinely excited about. They nourish the cells lining your colon, help regulate inflammation, and support the mucus layer that acts as your gut's first line of defense. Lentils are easy to grow from seed, directly sown into warm soil in spring. They're also nitrogen-fixing, meaning they improve your soil as they grow, a bonus that every gardener appreciates. Gardening tip: inoculate your lentil seeds with a legume inoculant before planting. It supercharges their nitrogen-fixing ability, and you'll notice the difference in your soil for years after. Lentils are remarkable, but the next crop supports the gut in a completely different structural way that researchers are particularly excited about. Number 8. Barley. Barley is one of the oldest cultivated grains on Earth, and it turns out it has been quietly doing something extraordinary for gut health all along. Barley is exceptionally high in beta-glucan, a type of soluble fibre that forms a thick gel in the digestive system. Research has shown that barley beta-glucan increases populations of bacteria that produce succinate, a compound that plays a direct role in glucose tolerance and metabolic health. Studies have specifically identified increases in bacteroides and ruminococcus, bacteria linked to a healthy, well-functioning gut environment. What makes barley particularly interesting is the concentration of its beta-glucan content, between 3 and 11% depending on the variety. That's significantly higher than most common crops. Barley is a cool climate grain that grows well in both the UK and across the US. Sow in early spring into well-drained soil and harvest in summer. Gardening tip: pearl barley is the processed form. For the full prebiotic benefit, grow and eat hulled barley, which retains far more of the bran and beta-glucan layer. Barley is a grain worth rediscovering. But the next plant works through a completely different mechanism, and it's something you almost certainly already have in your garden. Number 7. Apples. An apple a day, as it turns out, really might do something meaningful, just perhaps not for the reason you were told as a child. Apples are rich in pectin, a soluble fibre that has a distinctive effect on the gut. Research has shown that apple pectin specifically supports a bacterium called Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, one of the most anti-inflammatory bacteria known to science, and one that is noticeably reduced in people with certain gut conditions. Pectin also appears to strengthen the gut barrier by supporting the proteins that hold gut lining cells tightly together. What's especially interesting is that the pectin is concentrated in and just beneath the skin. So eating unpeeled apples from your own garden delivers considerably more benefit than a peeled shop-bought one ever could. A dwarf apple tree in a large pot or a small garden bed will produce reliably for decades. Gardening tip: choose a self-fertile variety if you have space for only one tree. Varieties like Braeburn or Cox are self-fertile and produce excellent crops without a pollination partner. Apples are brilliantly simple and quietly powerful, but we're now entering the top 5, and from here the science becomes noticeably more impressive. Before we get into the top 5, here's a finding that genuinely shifted how many researchers think about diet. A major gut health study found that people eating 30 or more different plant foods per week had measurably more diverse gut bacteria than those eating fewer, not 30 portions of the same plants. 30 different plants: vegetables, fruits, legumes, grains, herbs, nuts, seeds, all counted. Every new crop you grow is a direct vote for a richer, more resilient microbiome. Keep that in mind as we get into the top 5, because from here, these plants are doing things that are genuinely remarkable. Number 6. Oats. Oats have earned their reputation as a health food, but the reason they belong on this list is more specific than most people realize. Oat. Beta-glucan is one of the most studied fiber compounds in gut microbiome research. What makes it stand out is its effect on microbial diversity, the breadth of different bacterial species in your gut. A recent comparative study found that oat beta-glucan boosted alpha diversity, a measure of bacterial richness, more than other beta-glucan sources tested. It also increased carbohydrate metabolizing bacteria and short-chain fatty acid production in ways that researchers consider directly relevant to long-term gut health. Growing oats at home is genuinely possible in a UK or US garden. They're a cool season crop sown in early spring, and a modest plot can produce a meaningful harvest. Gardening tip: oats need room to sow broadly. Scatter seed across a bed rather than sowing in rows. Harvest when the grains are firm but the stalks are still greenish, gold, and hang to dry before threshing. Oats are a genuinely powerful crop. But number 5 takes prebiotic fibre to a level above almost everything else in your kitchen. Number 5. Leeks. Leeks are one of those vegetables that look completely ordinary until you understand what they're doing inside you. Like their allium relatives, garlic and onions. Leeks are rich in fructooligosaccharides and inulin-type fructans. These fibres reach the large intestine undigested and selectively feed beneficial bacteria, particularly Bifidobacteria and Lactobacilli. What's distinctive about leeks specifically is their harvest window. They're ready from late summer and keep producing through winter, meaning they can provide a consistent prebiotic food source across the months when other crops have long finished. Research supports the whole allium family as a meaningful prebiotic group, and leeks are one of the easiest to grow in cool, temperate conditions, tolerating frost and standing in the ground for months without deteriorating. Gardening tip: sow seeds indoors in late winter, transplant outside in early summer. Drop transplants into deep holes without backfilling, just water them in. That simple technique naturally blanches the lower stem, giving you a longer, sweeter white shank. Leeks are consistent, cold-hardy, and genuinely valuable. But number 4, a plant you probably eat every week without a second thought, has research behind it that is surprisingly impressive. Number 4. Onions. Onions are so familiar they barely register as a health food. That is a mistake worth correcting. A recent study using fecal samples from 19 human donors found that onion extracts reshaped the gut microbiota in significant ways, specifically increasing lactobacillus populations and stimulating the production of indole derivatives, including compounds called ILA and IPA. These metabolites are produced when gut bacteria ferment tryptophan, and researchers consider them important for gut barrier function and immune signaling. Onions also contain quercetin, one of the most studied polyphenols in nutrition science, which appears to help reduce gut inflammation and support the integrity of the gut lining. The combination of fructan prebiotics feeding the bacteria alongside quercetin, reducing inflammation, creates a genuinely layered gut-supporting effect. Growing onions is one of the most reliable things you can do in a vegetable garden. Push sets into the ground in early spring and harvest from midsummer onwards. Gardening tip: stop watering when the tops begin to flop. That's your signal. Let them dry in the sun for 2 weeks before storing. A well-dried onion will keep for 6 months without any special treatment. Onions are an everyday vegetable doing extraordinary work. Number 3. The research around this one surprised even us. Number 3. Garlic. If there is one plant that gut microbiome researchers keep returning to, it is garlic. And the more closely they look, the more interesting it becomes. A recent study found that garlic modulates the gut microbiota in a way that is dependent on your existing bacterial profile, what scientists call your enterotype. In people with a Bacteroides-dominant microbiome, garlic increased actinobacteriota, the bacterial phylum that includes Bifidobacterium, by 3.7 times. That is a substantial, measurable shift from a single food. Garlic contains fructooligosaccharides and inulin-like fructans as its prebiotic fibres, alongside organosulfur compounds, including allicin, produced when you crush or chop a clove, and polyphenols. Research suggests the combination acts on both the bacterial population itself and the environment they live in, selectively feeding beneficial bacteria while creating conditions less favourable for harmful ones. What makes garlic exceptional in this list is the specificity of its effect. It doesn't just broadly feed bacteria, it appears to shift the balance in targeted ways depending on who you already are inside. Growing garlic is one of the simplest and most rewarding things in the kitchen garden. Push individual cloves 10 cm into the ground in autumn and forget about them. By the following summer, each clove has become a full bulb. Gardening tip: remove the flower stalks, called scapes, when they appear in early summer. They're delicious roasted or in pesto, and removing them redirects the plant's energy into producing a larger bulb below ground. Garlic is remarkable in ways that most people have barely scratched the surface of. But number 2, this is where the science genuinely becomes extraordinary, and it grows like a weed. Number 2, Jerusalem artichoke. Jerusalem artichokes are the most misunderstood vegetable in the British and American garden. Knobbly, muddy, and almost entirely unglamorous. And yet, the science around this plant is genuinely exceptional. Jerusalem artichoke tubers contain between 15 and 20% inulin by weight, That places them among the highest natural inulin concentrations of any whole food. But what makes them especially interesting is not just the quantity, it's the quality of the effect. In a direct laboratory comparison, Jerusalem artichoke inulin outperformed commercially produced chicory-derived inulin for supporting the survival of Bifidobacterium bifidum, one of the most important beneficial bacterial species in the human gut. The same research found it reduced populations of E. coli more effectively than the commercial alternative. Animal studies have also linked it to increased short-chain fatty acid production and direct inhibition of pathogenic bacteria. The fact that this performance comes from a raw, whole food rather than a processed extract makes it particularly compelling to researchers. And growing it? The Jerusalem artichoke is essentially impossible to stop. Plant tubers in early spring in any soil with reasonable drainage and sun. They grow tall, spread freely, and by autumn, the ground beneath them is packed with more tubers than you planted. Leave some in the ground and they come back every year. No replanting needed. One note worth knowing, introduce them gradually into your diet. Their high inulin content can cause bloating as your gut bacteria adapt. That's not a problem, it's your bacteria working. Start small and build up. Gardening tip: grow them in a dedicated bed or a large container to manage the spread. Harvest from October onwards, digging carefully to find all the tubers. Any left behind will grow next year. Jerusalem artichoke is extraordinary. But number one, our top-ranked crop, is the plant whose gut-supporting credentials have been tested, retested, and confirmed in more human clinical trials than any other on this list. Number one, chicory. Here it is. The plant that sits at the top of the gut health research literature. The crop that commercial prebiotic supplement manufacturers extract their product from. And the vegetable that most home gardeners walk past in the seed catalogue without a second glance. Chicory. Specifically, chicory root, which contains up to 20% inulin by dry weight, making it one of the densest natural prebiotic sources known to science. But what elevates chicory above everything else on this list is the quality and scale of the human evidence. Multiple human clinical trials, not just lab studies, not just animal models, have examined chicory root inulin directly. The findings are consistent. Consuming between 15 and 30 grams of dried chicory root per day measurably increases stool frequency, significantly boosts bifidobacteria populations, elevates short-chain fatty acid production, and may support glycemic control, all through changes in the gut microbiota. A recent systematic review confirmed these bifidogenic effects as robust and independent of how chicory is consumed or prepared. What does that mean in plain language? Chicory feeds your beneficial gut bacteria directly, measurably, and in ways that have been observed in real human beings eating real food. That is a higher standard of evidence than almost anything else in nutrition. It is also genuinely easy to grow. Sow seeds directly into the ground in early summer. Chicory is a cool season crop that largely looks after itself. The leafy forms, including radicchio, the beautiful red and white variety, develop their best colour and flavour as temperatures cool in autumn. The root varieties can be harvested after about 120 days and used fresh, roasted or dried. Gardening tip for the prebiotic root: grow the wild or Italian dandelion types of chicory rather than the heading types. Harvest in autumn when the inulin concentration is at its peak. If you want to eat the leaves as well, cover developing heads with a pot or cloche to blanch them. It dramatically reduces bitterness while preserving the full nutritional benefit. Chicory, backed by more human clinical evidence than any other plant here, containing up to 20% inulin by weight, growing happily in any temperate garden with almost no attention. It is the most underestimated crop you could plant this season. So there we have it, 10 plants, each one doing something genuinely remarkable for the trillions of bacteria that call your gut home. From the dandelion you've been trying to kill to the chicory that professional supplement makers can't get enough of, the pattern is the same throughout. Diversity and fibre are what a healthy gut microbiome runs on. The wider the variety of plant foods you eat and grow, the richer and more resilient your gut bacteria become. And a diverse, well-fed microbiome is one of the most consistent findings in all of modern health research, connected to better immunity, better mood, better energy, and better long-term health outcomes across the board. You don't need to grow all 10. Start with 2 or 3. Every new plant you add to your garden is a direct, tangible contribution to your gut health. The science is clear, and the gardening couldn't be simpler. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these are you already growing? Or is there one on this list that's genuinely surprised you and has you thinking about making space for it this season? Drop it in the comments. It's always brilliant to hear what people are growing, and you might just inspire someone else to get started. If you find these informative and educational videos interesting, make sure to subscribe and hit like, and turn on the bell icon to never miss a new video. Until then, keep growing, keep eating the diversity, and take good care of those trillions of tiny passengers who are quietly working hard for you.